In this video, I'm going to show you how to read data from the database. We're going to do that by using PDO methods. So I have this data here from the database tutorial. I have the table users, and I want to display all these users in the browser right here when I click on refresh. Okay, so the first thing I have to do is write the SQL or systematic query language in order to get the data from here. So remember, SQL is used as a language to interact with the database here from a database system, like in this case, PHP my admin. Okay, so I already have a connection set up here. I explained this in the previous video. So what I'm going to do is write a SQL statement. So I'm going to define a variable SQL, which is a string. So I'm going to select everything from the table users. Okay, so I already have the SQL here, and now I need to query this SQL in order to get all of this data from here. Okay, so the second thing, define a statement object using the query method. So this is a statement over here. It's going to be an object because I am getting the data from connection. This connection variable right here, which is an object. Connection, and I'm using the method query. Okay, so here I have to, as an argument, as the only argument is the SQL over here. So I already have a statement here that is using this object connection, and I'm using the method query with the SQL select everything from users. Okay, so I already have step number 2, and now I need to define the return data. Where do I store this data that I'm going to be returned? So that is going to be users, because the array that I want is all of these users over here, all of these table users. So I say users, I get that from statement over here, and statement has a method which is fetch all, because I want to fetch all of this information over here. Okay, so let's recap. I have a SQL string over here, select everything from users. I have a statement which is the connection here that if it's successful, then we're going to be able to use it. And I'm going to use query on that connection with the SQL statement here, the SQL string select everything from users. And I'm going to define users by saying statement fetch all. So this statement over here is going to fetch all of the data over here. And finally, I will display the data. Okay, so I'm going to say echo pre. This is like an HTML tag that will help me organize my results, and I want to print all of the users. Okay, so let's see if that actually works. So I'm going to my browser and I refresh, and I can see that I'm connected here to my database, and now I'm getting all my data here. So I got 4 elements in this array with all of the info here. So you need to know that we're mixing here an associative array and an indexed array, because I didn't specify in which way I need to fetch that data. That's why you see all of this information mixed up over here. So in order to fix that, I need to add a method to the connection object, and I'm gonna do it right now. I'm actually going to delete this echo here. I don't need to have it there. So if I see the data, I will conclude that the connection was successful. So I'm going to say connection, and the method I'm going to use to set the fetch mode is set attribute. So set attribute, and the first argument is PDO. I'm calling the class here, so this is a static method. PDO attribute default fetch mode. So I'm going to set the fetch mode in the second argument, and the second argument is actually going to be the fetch mode that I'm going to use. I can say fetch assoc, which is associative arrays, and if I do that, When I refresh the browser, you're going to see that my data is going to be returned as an associative array. So let's see that. There you go. So I already have an associative array. So this has the key ID 1, name Ivan, age 38. If you compare it with the data here, you got it here. The second one is Charles, ID 2, Charles, age 24. So ID as the key, 2 as the value. So we have key and value pairs as an associative array. But if instead of an associative array, I want to return my objects, my data as objects. So I do fetch object. So the second argument would be fetch object instead of associative array. And now this will return an array of objects. So actually you can see it the same way over here as an associative array, but you'll actually get it as an object. So for example, if I want to get the third element, so I will get users index 2, and now I'm going to get only the name over here. So right now is object users number 2, which is the second element name over here. So you'll see that is Laura. So if I want to use, instead of fetching the object, I'm going to use fetch associative array. Let me see, fetch associative. Let me just go over here and I'll look for it. There you go. Where is it? Let me see, fetch. Let me just spell that right. Here you go. This is not going to work because I'm not retrieving the data as an associative array, but as an object. So I'm going to be throwing an error here. Attempt to read property name on array. Okay, so instead of using an object, I said that I'm going to use an associative array, so I have to type it as an associative array. So I got brackets and a string calling the key that I want to retrieve, the value of the key. So if I refresh, it's going to work, and it says Laura. If I change the element, the fourth element, remember um, indexed elements or indexed arrays start with 0. So let's see, I got Pedro here, but if I change this to an object, so I can only have to do this, I only have to do that. This is not going to work, so I need to say name like this with an arrow, and I refresh it and I see Pedro and number 4. There's no number 4, so this is going to throw an error. There you go. So we only have, look, we only have 1, 2, 3, 4 index 0, 1, 2, and 3. So let's go to index 1 over here, and now we see that you're going to see the name Charles. Okay, 0, 1. The second one is Charles, and the first one is Ivan or Ivan. There you go. So that's it. That's it. I wanted to show you how to read the data from the database after you establish the connection.